Good morning, guys, and welcome out to Revolution. So today we are going to look at this video that's just come out one day ago, and it's only a 4-minute video, but we are going to do a bit of study on this. And so this is called Textus Receptus in the Papyri. And I will play this video all the way through. Now, we did have another video with Matt Singleton lined up. Unfortunately, we have had some audio issues where there was a lot of feedback and mic cutting out and things like that, so we couldn't do that today. But I did see this yesterday, and I thought it was worth investigating. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a live reaction to this video. We're going to see if the claims are true, because if these claims are true, then I'm all for advocating for dating manuscripts. I'm into dating manuscripts. I think they should be tested to the best standards that we have today. I think all works of art should be as well. I think everything should just be verified. You know, if we can verify something, we should be able to do that with the Bible. And so these papyri have been claimed to be very early. Now, if what the critical text guys are saying is true, and these papyri are, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century papyri, then what we're seeing is, just with this bit of information, we're seeing that these papyri are, several of them have TR readings in them. They are, and this is one of the things that Harry Sturz brought up. And this is one of the things that toppled the whole concept of Westcott and Hort's Lucianic recension theory. When the papyri came on the scene and people were saying, well, these are very old, they're, first, second, third, whatever, they were saying how old they were at the time. Because there's a lot in the papyri, the Oxyrhynchus finds, there's lots of different things. There's Gnostic literature, there's Christian literature, there's a mix, there's recipes, there's all sorts of things. And so but when it comes to dating these things, I'm all for chemical testing, I'm all for XRF testing. But regardless of that issue, if the critical text guys are adamant in saying P52 is from this particular date, then let's look at it. Let's see how close it is to the Textus Receptus. So watch this video with me. I think you'll enjoy this. I think you'll see where I'm going with this. And what we're going to do, we're going to examine the claims that are being brought up about this, because I think that this type of information is invaluable. And I really enjoyed that the King James Research Council are thinking outside of the box and just examining things, because someone just proclaims, okay, well, this manuscript is this type of document. Like, I'm not saying this is a concrete example or anything, but just say someone came along and said, well, Alexandrinus is Byzantine in the Gospels, but then it's Alexandrian everywhere else. So who made that claim? Has it been verified? We need to look at these things again. We need to reevaluate all of these claims, because the critical text guys have just sort of claimed pretty much everything. And even the Textus Receptus, they say, oh, it's not even a Byzantine thing. And it's like, it's thoroughly based on the Byzantine text. And so, Sean Chrisman is in the house and says, is chemical testing more accurate than carbon dating? I thought you meant carbon dating for a minute. I would have a problem with Christians accepting anything carbon dated. Well, carbon dating can be accurate. It's usually not accurate when people are dating things that have been left out in the mud for 1,000 years, and like bones or whatever, and they're dating these and they're saying, well, these are 40,000 years old. There are limitations to that type of dating. Chemical testing is looking at things like the inks. So you would chemically test the ink, and you would say, okay, well, how, because there is a certain cutoff point with certain inks, there are certain technologies that came into the chronological sequence of papyri history. And so you would see, like, say, for example, when they chemically tested archaic mark, they found Prussian blue ink in it, and that proved to them that it was a forgery. Now, you can have something that's been rewritten over the top in modern ink, and that can give you a false reading, but usually people can discern that. People don't re-ink something exactly. So you can always see an overlap, and so you can test those parts. And so when I'm talking about chemical testing, I'm talking about finding if there's vitriol in the text. So that would prove that it's a modern day thing, because that technology only came around in the 1500s, 1600s sort of thing. So understanding those things, that gives you at least a ballpark. You're at least going, okay, well that is older than we thought, or that is younger than we thought. It just, at least it's better than a guess. And I'm all for questioning the sciences as well, but these type of sciences seem to be very factual. When you're testing inks, even just testing the manuscript, what it's made of, how old that is, or if it's some sort of animal skin, what sort of animal is it? Testing it to see, you could probably find out what region that animal came from. If you're looking at something that's been mass produced in Germany in like the 1500s, and then there's something written on that, well, it's not. If that has the same exact makeup as that, then it's obviously not from the Middle East. It's from Germany. And also too, they have certain ways that they treat papyrus, and certain technologies that entered into the making of papyrus. And so you'd have certain regions that made papyri a certain way. So you could look at those things. And especially with the technology we have today, you could create a whole forensic science around manuscripts. Fortunately, it's not just the Bible. The academy, people who are studying the Bible who are doing this sort of stuff. Art is a huge deal. Byzantine art is huge. Byzantine art forgeries are a big deal. So this type of technology is growing outside of the biblical sphere, because in the biblical sphere, we can see that people seem to lord over that and to try and control it. And that's what we're seeing here with this video. So I'm going to play this video for you, and you'll see some interesting things. So Helg is in the house. Sorry, my audio is off. Let's start again.
There is no evidence of the traditional text before the 4th century. That's the Lucian recension theory. But you see these papyrus things here, they number papyri, these little pieces of paper. Papyrus 52, 100 to 175 AD, has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error, because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect match to the Textus Receptus. Papyrus 32, 200 AD, has two spelling differences, and beside that, it is a 100% match to the Textus Receptus. And the Textus Receptus is based on the traditional text. Papyrus 66 is a mixed text. It has traditional text readings, it has Alexandrian readings, but it's dated 200 AD. Papyrus 64 is three little pieces out of the book of Matthew, written on the front and the back. A well-known, recognized, accepted scholar, papyrologist named Carsten Thiede, dated that papyrus at between 30 and 70 AD. Now, there's an interesting thing in Matthew 26:22, because if you read the literature,
Okay, sorry to stop that just for a second, but I'm opening up pages in the background that are quite heavy with graphics, and so my bandwidth just gets sucked out, and then I disappear. So I just sort of pause that. Let's continue.
The literature will tell you that in Papyrus 64 there is no difference between Papyrus 64 and this. The Nestle Greek text. I beg to differ. And one of those pieces of paper that had...
So I just disappeared then. So I'll just load this page up. This is I'm just getting P52 because we're gonna go through and examine the papyri. So this is loading up. So sorry about my poor internet. But as you can see, I'm loading up some pretty heavy pictures. So this is P52. So we're going to examine these claims. We're going to get the TR out. We're going to look at what they've got written here. And we're just going to see if the scholars are being honest. I don't know if they are or not. These are claims by this guy. So let's just continue through. Now, I will go back through this video and we will look at what we can. Obviously, P66, he just sort of glossed over that. Not glossed over it, but just mentioned it. It's quite a big document. So obviously, we won't be able to do that today. We might be able to look at a few little bits and pieces. But we will look at what he is claiming in these manuscripts here. So let's continue.
Have to do with Matthew 26:22. There are 3 letters that are at the top of the scrap, and they're torn off about in the middle of the letter. And you can tell what the first 2 letters are. That's not hard. It's the third one that you have to look close at. It's tau and omega. And the third one is either an N, a nu, or an M, a mu. Now the textual critics would like to say it's a mu. But if it is a mu, it couldn't possibly match this. If it's a nu, it couldn't possibly match this. Because this doesn't have a nu in that spot. Between the O and the M, in here, there are 2 words. And they're not in P64. Karsten Thiede decided after deep study with all of their equipment that it was a nu. And when he makes it a nu, if he's right, it is a 100% agreement with the Textus Receptus. That is remarkable.
Okay, so we're going to examine these claims. So let's look at the first claim. Let's just rewind it back here. So P52, so I've got it loaded up.
There is no evidence.
So it's Steve Combs. For more information, check out his book, A Practical Theology of Bible Translating. Okay.
Of the traditional text before the 4th century.
So this is a claim that critical text people have made, that basically around the time of Chrysostom is when the Byzantine text was made. So before that, it was more like a Vaticanus or a Sinaiticus. Even though they differ so much, it was like that. And they've put these together and said, oh, they're the same family. And it's like having, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, like, oh, they're related, you know, they're so different. But they're like, okay, they're the same family. The Byzantine Textus Receptus type texts are, you know, non-existent up until now. But how did they sort of get into all the churches all of a sudden? It's weird. So then they've created this concept of a recension where they just got all the Bibles, gathered them all together, all the good Bibles, the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus Bibles. They grabbed all them and destroyed them, you know. So then the horrible Byzantine text ended up just taking over. But it's sort of one of those arguments that apologists, even critical text guys, they use this apologetic to talk about the Bible. Like James White will say, well, the Bible went everywhere, so no one could have control over it, sort of thing. But that's exactly what Westcott and Hort taught. And that's exactly what basically, if you believe in a critical text theory, they're using our understanding that the Byzantine text was everywhere, and you can't control that. But they're like, oh no, it was fully controlled. And so one of the ways they can get around this is by bringing Islam into it and saying, well, Islam sort of destroyed all the good Bibles. Either way, all the good Bibles just, Vaticanus ended up in the Vatican Library, no one really even looking at it. Yeah, Erasmus looked at it and said, it's probably a back translation from a Latin document. It's not the best. Mill didn't like it. He thought it was a back translation from a Latin document. And Sinaiticus was just completely unknown until 1844. So these weren't translated. They weren't copied. They're just standalone, and one's Danny DeVito and one's Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're weird, But all of a sudden, they're the best, and the Byzantine ones that apologists, they borrow the story from us and say, oh, the Bible's everywhere, Wes Huff and Dan Wallace and James White use this story. That can only apply to our Bible. But so anyway, they've found these papyri. It debunked the whole Westcott and Hort theory that there was this recension, that the TR Byzantine type texts only were from the 4th century. So so if you want to read more on that, you could probably get this book, Byzantine Text Type and New Testament Textual Criticism by Harry Sturz. Now, Harry Sturz, he's not really a friend of the TR or anything like that, but he does go through and show where the papyri has Byzantine readings in it. And half the time, most of the time, the Byzantine readings back up Textus Receptus. It's just a fancy way for them to say Textus Receptus without acknowledging the TR. And they say, oh, the TR, that's just like some weird thing. They found like one manuscript. Erasmus didn't know what he was doing. He's an idiot. He's a bozo. So they're always trying to demonize the TR. So you end up having to talk in their language, which is a Byzantine text. And that's become like this other thing, so but let's look at it. Let's test this and see if the Textus Receptus that we have today is what these manuscripts are showing. So we'll go through it. These are the claims. If we prove Steve wrong here, okay, well, that's fine. We're back to the same position we were at. But if not, this earliest witness that, even Wes Huff is making papyri for Joe Rogan and other people, it's a TR. And so it's a TR manuscript. So let's check this out.
That's the Lucian recension theory. But you see these papyrus things here. They number papyri, these little pieces of paper. Papyrus 52, 100 to 175 AD, has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error, because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect match to the Textus Receptus.
Okay, so that's his first claim. I'll just rewind
Papyrus.
That, so we've got this picture up here. Okay, so we are looking at this workspace here in Munster. Now they do have two pictures. So this seems to be the one he was looking at with the Omicron. Okay. So this is what they've got written here. Now I'm just going to copy that. We're in John 18. So maybe if you want to study along with me, you might want to get your TR out or whatever, or jump online and go John 18. Now I am going to find some way of putting this here so that we can all enjoy what's being said here. Okay, so I'll cut that, make that go down. So this is a response video, so don't expect high professionalism here. I'm just winging this, but we are going to examine these claims. And so I'm not sure why that A there, the Aleph is, alpha is in a square. I'm not sure why. It seems like they've taken a picture with it like that. I guess they were photographing each letter. So anyway, I will, I'll get that back up here. Okay. So yes, so I have written here what is mentioned and also what they think it is. Okay, so I guess that's on one side. So maybe we should just go back and I will look at the other side first before we get too carried away. Okay, so we were looking at this side. I'll open it up in a different tab. No, I will copy that into a different browser. Okay. I'll check some comments. Dwayne Green is in the house. He briefly watched the video. Calvin watched it as well. Hilly Billy is in the house. Dwayne says, I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I'm curious if the things he's checking are TR specific readings or if they are also Byzantine readings. I guess the thing is, if they are Byzantine and they are TR, that they would be the same. You know, most of the Byzantine TR text is identical. There are 1,800 differences. When you've got 260 chapters, what does that equal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So probably 8. Yeah, probably about 8 changes per chapter, which isn't much, you know, but there are changes. So Sean Chrisman says the lack of latter manuscripts matching Vaticanus or Sinaiticus is weird, or maybe there are some. I'm not as educated on the subject yet. Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's weird that Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're not twins. They're so different as well. So the starting point is different. Dwayne Green says appealing to the papyrus is not as great as one thinks. Papyrus manuscripts are generally all over the place with little coherence to one another. Yeah, I guess this is just examining the claims of the critical text people who sort of have lorded over everything and claimed everything for themselves. Now, when I studied Papyri 1, I was interested because Hoskier said that it was very close to the Textus Receptus. It was closer to the TR than it was to Vaticanus. And so I did a bit of an article on it on my website. And sort of, I just found that some of the information was skewed to make it, it's almost like every papyri that they found, they're like, this backs up our text all of a sudden. But I just found that those claims were often fabricated. Dwayne Green says they're cool, but not so helpful in the textual discussion. But yes, Sturz has shown that there are Byzantine readings among the papyri. Yes, and Calvin says Vaticanus and Sinaiticus have no chain of custody and no provenance whatsoever. So I'm not sure why this hasn't come up. Let's click on this. There we go. Okay, so this is the side of the first side that we're looking at. So we'll look at this one first, and we'll match it up with the Textus Receptus, and we'll check out the critical text as well, and we'll see which one is closest, because yeah, we've heard many claims about these, and so here we have it written down there. I've just got it in the notepad just so we can check it. Obviously, on their website, they have the text there in black, and in red there, that's what they've added. So we'll check that. We'll examine this manuscript. It might take a while, but let's see if what they've written here is accurate. Okay. Now, I will get the Textus Receptus up. Let's go to, should I get Beza's up rather than Scrivener's? I'll grab Scrivener's. Actually, I can go to Bible Hub. It has Scrivener's there. It used to have Beza, but it doesn't anymore. Don't know why they took that off. Okay, so we're looking at John 18:31. John 18:31 and Bible Hub. Okay, so we'll go directly to the Greek here. Okay, so it has additional parallel Greek. It used to have Beza's text in there. I'm not sure why they took it out. It used to have Scrivener's, Stephanus's, and then Beza. I'm pretty sure they still have Beza's up there, which is interesting. But it's not in the parallel anymore. I'm not sure why. So anyway, let's check this out. I will copy Scrivener's and put it into our little notepad here. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at John 18:31, not 18:3. That's fine. Okay. All right, so I'm looking for similarities. Okay, so it looks like it starts from here. Okay, that's where it starts from. The oi eudeo. So let's check that out. So as far as I can tell, oh, we can zoom right in. That's good. As far as I can tell, now I'm trying to work out how I can have all these things up at the same time. There we go. So I think we would all agree that's an Omicron and an iota, so that would be correct. The eudaoi. Okay, so let's check that out. Iota, Omicron, and upsilon. I would agree with that. So this is a delta. It's very interesting looking delta, but I guess I'll just check through these two words for starters, and I'll check it with the TR. An interesting delta, but I guess what else could it be, you know? And then an alpha. and an iota. Okay. So then in the red here, they've got the Omicron is completely missing. And then it looks like it's got an iota here. So I'll just see if there's any difference with the TR there. So I might get rid of the first section, which we don't need. It'll just confuse us. So I'll just write TR, just so we're not confused. And so it looks like it's saying exactly the same thing. Okay. So I don't think there's, I'm not really going to go through and just collate the whole thing and look for any type of little differences here and there. I'm going to I'm basically looking at it saying, is this a critical text reading or is it a Textus Receptus reading? So far they're the same. And maybe what I should do to save time is just cut out the ones that are the same already. But then again, maybe we should just double check everything. And so let's look at this one. See the amen here, amen here. It looks like it's got an extra an epsilon there. So it is interesting that does appear there in the text, and it's not in the TR. And Scrivener and Stephanus, they don't have an epsilon there. So we're just got to check it if it's an epsilon. Okay, so you got the eta and then the mu, and that's definitely not an iota. Okay, so that would sort of come against Coombs's theory because that does seem like an epsilon. Now let's see. Tischendorf. Okay, I'll show you what I'm reading here. So we're looking at this word here. So Tischendorf has the same. Greek Orthodox Church has the same. Byzantine majority has the same. Westcott and Hort has the same. Westcott and Hort, Nestle, SBS. So it looks like everyone has the same. So this additional epsilon here, it might just be an older way to bring out a phonetic distinction. So that looks interesting. So I might actually I'll see if I can copy this into a Google search and get rid of the brackets. Okay, it seems to have already gotten rid of the brackets. Let's throw that in there. We'll just see if it comes up somewhere. Okay. Okay. Anyway, that's a rabbit trail. So it does seem like all the printed texts have the same reading. So it's not really an issue with whether it's critical text or Textus Receptus. It does just seem like they have an epsilon there. So this letter here, so it definitely does look like an epsilon. Now I'm just wondering if they have another epsilon. So on line 4 they do. So I might just zoom out a little bit. So that's the type of epsilon that they're using, okay? Or this type. So sometimes they have a longer sort of strike through in the middle. This type here, another one. So let's just go back up the top and see if it's a similar one. This one here, it does seem that way. Could it possibly be an iota? I don't think so. Could it be another letter? Okay, so let's, I think we're sort of looking at something that's not really that important anyway, but it does, that probably could add to Coombs's issue where he said he thought the only typo was an Omicron. It does seem like this is an epsilon there, which is not really that needed. It does yes, so Dwayne Green's looking for another Velta to compare. Okay, so that looks like a capital Velta there. Yeah, so that's, yes, so that makes sense. So this Velta here, it is like one of those capital ones, but with a bit more of a squirvy stylistic top to it. I'm not sure if there's any other Velta there. Maybe on the other page. I'll just check that out. Unless I'm missing a Velta. I can't see any Velta there. So that's an alpha. So yeah, it seems like that's the only Velta. And so I would agree that that's probably a Velta there. It does seem to just be, you know, how they sort of they've made it like the alpha, but it just is a little bit higher and straight at the bottom. So interesting. Looks like an epsilon or an omicron. Yeah, I think because it's got the omicron there, but it does seem to have a middle to it. So it does seem to look more like an epsilon. So I would say that they're correct there in their evaluation. This type of thing, because I guess you could also say it could be a theta. Yes, and so Dwayne's just come up with that as well, which wouldn't really make sense. I guess if we have, maybe someone's got an apparatus open and they can look at some of the textual variants there, but it doesn't seem like any of the printed text, like even Tischendorf or anyone, has any type of difference there. So, so I guess it's one of those things which is a curiosity, but so both of the texts, the critical text and the Byzantine text and the Textus Receptus, like they don't follow this. So that's where I would say it's probably something that is phonetic in Greek, or something that's been cancelled out by having an epsilon and an iota there. Sometimes that can be, diphthong's not the word that I'm looking for. Maybe it is a diphthong. And so sometimes these can be morphed into one, and so it doesn't really matter. But okay. Okay. Now I'm just going to do a bit of Google searching. And maybe I can type in P52 and someone's already done a bit on this. Okay, so that's interesting. I do have the Wikipedia page, which I should have really gone to earlier. And they do have it like transcribed out here. So we can check out what's generally sort of agreed to as to what it's saying. So, so this is the issue that we're looking at here. So obviously the bold letters are the ones that are shown. Now, what's interesting is on the Munster side, this is boldened as well. So it's not boldened here. So they don't feel there's enough evidence for this here to be an iota, which is interesting. What are they thinking that it is? Let's have a look. But they're still coming to the same conclusion. So maybe I can Google that. Okay. I'm just getting lots of Greek stuff. Seems like a bit of a rabbit trail. Okay, so I think the first line is of interest, but it doesn't really affect what we're saying. Maybe that could be an issue that Coombs, if he watches this, or if anyone from the King James Research Council watches this, they can probably just write down the notes rather than getting to watch a 5-hour video where I'm just sort of doing it, shooting from the hip, and it's not really a in-depth study. But so then we're going on to the second line here. So let's have a look at that now. I might make that smaller if I can. There we go. Got a bit more screen there. So Udenta, I would be in agreement that this says Udena. Sorry, I put a tau in there by mistake. Udena. I would agree with that unless anyone's seeing something different there. Seems very straightforward. Inna, iota nu alpha, and then we've got an omicron and a lambda for the word logos. So I'll grab my column again. Let's see how this matches up with the TR. Now it looks like I'm going to have to go into John 18, 32. And we'll look at the Greek there. John 18:32, Greek. And we'll grab Scrivener's TR. And I'll put that in there. Okay. Okay, so that's line 1. Then we've got line number 2 here. And this is where verse 32 starts. Okay, so they've written that there, 32, so I might write that here as well, 32. And it seems to go down here to number 3. And to apo, and then it goes to another line. So we'll grab 33. Actually, I might just grab it all now. Save doing it each time. Let's go to 33. I'll grab that Greek there. Usually I would have done all this beforehand, and so to save boring you guys to tears with me just copy and pasting, but it's pretty exciting. Okay, so we're here. Okay, so 32, 33. And that goes down to here. We've got not line number 5. Ends in Yesun. And we'll go number 6. And number 7. Okay. So on line 2, so what is there in their text is Udena, Ina, Ho, and then the lambda for logos. Okay, so let's compare that with the TR. So we verified that that's what it's saying. So in the TR, Udena, and then Ina, Ho, and then the lambda for logos. So it's the same. So so everything else there is just added just so people will know. So we could probably do that the same with the TR here, So so we'll go to line 3. Let's check out line 3. And we're starting with pen. So I think we would all be in agreement that says pen there, P, epsilon, and a nu. And then we're starting here, obviously with an epsilon, but it doesn't have an epsilon here, does it? That's interesting. They're saying it's a sigma. Okay, so let's check out the one that I was looking at from Wikipedia. And they have a sigma here as well, which is interesting because that's definitely not a sigma. It looks like they've mistakenly thought that the modern day way of writing a sigma, which is usually in the ancient Greek, is a capital C. But maybe it is a sigma, but just with a blotch there. Okay, and it looks like an epsilon. So that's interesting. But it does, yeah, I guess that's why when I was going through looking at the epsilons, like here, that's very different. So maybe that is a sigma with a type of an ink blotch in the middle, or maybe it's something indicating something else. But so we'll check that issue out. So let's check that out. How are we going to check that out? Where exactly are we? Okay, so we're in 32. We're looking at pen, P-E-N. Okay. Find let's copy this. Okay. I'm a little bit lost as to where we are with that, so I'll just keep going through. Okay, so line number 3. So definitely with the Textus Receptus here, it has pe. Okay, so that is at the end of 32. That's why. So I'm looking at 33. Pe. Now I'll throw this in the mix so we can all look at it. Okay. E-pen. Okay, so the sigma is not really an issue when it comes to all the printed text. So no one thinks it's an epsilon except for me. But I think you can clearly see why my alarm bells went off there, because I was thinking it's definitely looks like an epsilon, doesn't it? So I guess, but it's basically, the capital C is the old way of writing a sigma. So I just assumed that they'd messed that up there, but it seems like all the printed text go with it. It's an interesting looking letter. I'm not sure if there's any others that look like that here. So let's just check that out. That might be. So this is the type of epsilon that we're looking at here, here, here. That's our one that we're examining. And also this one that was here. Interesting. So I'm assuming that a scribe has written the sigma here, and that this is either some sort of textual mark or it's actual like an ink blotch that's soaked into that letter. So anyway, let's just keep checking through these. We got the eta and then the mu. I think we're all agreed with that. Then an alpha, then an iota. So it's pretty warm, that iota. I'll just check and see if there's any sort of textual issue there. Okay, TR. Pen. Pen. Okay, so a mu, an alpha, an iota, and so that is in all the printed texts. So I don't think it's an issue. And then you're looking at an omega. Sometimes the old P's look like an omega, which is, it's very strange when you're going through some of these old manuscripts. And so yeah, I'm pretty certain that that is the reading. So let's just check our TR with that. So here we have the pair. So obviously the final nu is there. It's not in the Textus Receptus, but is that just the movable nu? Oftentimes you'll go through these documents, the nu will be either on or off. It just depends. Like say, for example, we have here the Scrivener text and the Stephanus text, and you can see this example here where the nu is in the 1550, but it's not in Scrivener's. And so that's usually just because the modern Greek would not put that in there. And so here we see the nu. Yeah, so that basically, if we were following the 1550, and it's probably in Beza's text as well, it probably does have the final nu on it. But sometimes they don't. But it's more like a stylistic type of thing. The movable nu is just one of those things that when you're learning Greek or you're going through manuscripts, you see it everywhere. It's just a very common thing. So I wouldn't say that that's like a variant or anything like that, but it's worth noting. So then we're looking at the sigma, which I thought was an epsilon, and we're going, basically it's just those letters there. So they are identical in what's being offered on the website. Now, what I'm going to do after I go through this and check it with the TR, then I'm going to just quickly check this with the critical text and just see how many differences there are, because they might actually have this written up here as to exactly how it's written, and it might be the TR, but they're not saying that. It's just, okay, here's the text. And so we'll go through that and we'll check that out. And so, but I've got to start somewhere. So I'm just comparing their text with the TR. Okay, so let's go to line 4. So we've got this last word here. We'll check it out. So this is a theta, apparently. So I'll just check that out. Okay, so now a theta, a nu, an eta, a sigma, a kappa, an epsilon, an iota, and a nu. And an iota, and they're saying that's a sigma. So I'll just double check those. is that a theta? I'll just see if there's any difference in. It's usually the ones that are very worn that we're double checking. So they all basically saying that it's a theta. So to have something completely different would be very strange, but that does seem to be agreed on that it's a theta. Nu, I think we can all see that. Eta, sigma, kappa, epsilon, iota, and a nu. So I'm pretty happy with what they've got here. And then they've got an iota and a sigma there. So let's just check it out. Does that go to 33? I think it does. So I think we're actually at 33. I can close that down. We can drag 33 across. And now I've just got to find out where I am. Okay, what are we starting with? Theta. Theta. Or are we at 33 yet? Maybe I've jumped the gun. Let's check out our little thing here. Okay, so 33 is in the it's in the next verse. So I did jump the gun a little bit. I'll grab that. I'll reopen that page. Okay. Let's go back down. Get rid of the ads. Go back down to here. So we've got apo, and there's really no change to the theta there, which is the one we're looking at. Okay. Okay, so that's why they've got that there. It's apotheneskin. And so we're looking at the end part of a word. So the apo is not there. It's suggested to be there. So we're looking at theneskin. And so I think we could agree that that is a theta, a nu, and then an eta, a sigma, a kappa, an epsilon, an iota, and a nu. And then we're looking at the next verse, which is 33. And we're looking at an iota and a sigma. So I'll drag this across here. So the iota and sigma, so we seem to have dropped the epsilon there. It's in the TR, it's in everything. So it might just be stylistic in the way that someone's written that. Let's see. Yeah, it does seem like the epsilon is missing there. So that would be another place where someone could maybe write down and say, well, the epsilon is missing there. You know, what does that mean to everything? Is that just stylistic? But there is a difference there. And so this here, so what is actually missing? So we're looking for, you would expect to see an epsilon here, but you don't. You see an iota and a sigma. So the epsilon seems to be deleted, missing. Does that change the word, or is it like the movable nu? Is it a stylistic way of looking at it? I'm not really sure. So we will go to Wikipedia and just have a look at what they've got written there. I have so many pages open. I'm going to shut a few. I don't need that open. I don't think I need that open. Yes, I do. P52. Here we go. So yeah, so they are saying that the same thing there as well. There is no epsilon in front of the iota and sigma there. So that would be worth noting. But again, it's not really something that in the Textus Receptus, or it's not backing up the TR, or it's not backing up the critical text. They're both basically similar here. So I guess all that would be is another place where that can be pointed out where there's something changed. And so, okay, let's continue through. So I guess this is so worn here. It's like, is that a iota? Is that a sigma? I mean, or is it like an actual epsilon? But it doesn't look like one, does it? It looks like that is an iota. So here's an iota here. Okay, so you can sort of tell it's the same type of, curvy way of looking at it. Let's look for another iota on the page. There's another one there. Sort of curves a little bit. There's another one there. So that seems to be the direction of this one. And then the sigma, I mean, looking back at our sigma here, you can see it's that type of letter here as well. So it's not like a C that's just straight. It looks like it's sort of bending over a little bit. So it does seem to have that type of quality there. So, and critical text, Textus Receptus, Byzantine are all basically saying this is a sigma in their printed edition. So unless there's some other abnormal thing happening there, it does seem like it's. I would be in agreement there, but that would be somewhere where it's like, okay, let's bookmark that. If we were going to do further study on it, you would investigate that and see if someone's actually noted some other issue there, or there are other variants in other manuscripts. And so let's just quickly check with the TR. And so they're the only letters that were there. So it's the iota and sigma. So the TR has the epsilon, iota, sigma, but so do the critical text and others. So we will compare the critical text with this one just a little bit later. But yeah, they're pretty much just saying the same thing in a sense, where all the printed texts have this. This one doesn't, so it's neither for or against. So let's look at line number 5 here. So we've got the rho, the iota, the omicron, the nu, and here we have the rho, iota, omicron, and nu. It seems to be on line with that. We have an omega. So this is the omega that, sorry, not omega, omicron. And so the omicron is the one that he pointed out is the definite article that shouldn't be there. So he's saying that that's just a textual variant, and maybe we can jump back into the video and just see exactly what he said about that.
4th century. That's the Lucian recension theory. These little 75 AD has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error. because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect match to the text.
Okay, so all right, I'm getting all sorts of messages here. I better not show them publicly. All right, so that's cool. We will, yeah. So then we've got so this is considered the place where there is a textual variant, and I guess let's just have a look and see how this differs. Now I've got so many pages open here. Here we go, 33. Okay, so what's it saying? Rho, iota, omicron, nu. Now, where is that? Here. And yeah, he does seem like he's absolutely correct, where here you have the omicron after Palin. So Stephanus has it, Scrivener has it, Tischendorf, Greek Orthodox. So it doesn't seem like anyone has it. Actually, Westcott and Hort have it. Okay. So he's saying it's a typo, where actually he should be probably saying it does match up with Westcott and Hort there. Interesting. So that's somewhere where we will have to look at. Okay. So maybe what I'll do, because that's obviously the biggest thing that we found so far, because that could override his whole theory. Because if it's following the text that Westcott and Hort have, and it does have the omicron there, and it is in their text, then it's in their favor. And we have to just admit that. If he's just saying, okay, it's just a variant, and it doesn't really mean anything, okay, we'll go with that. But we'll go back and see exactly what he said about this. So let's check this out. I'll fast forward the first little bit.
Traditional dissension papyri, these little pieces of paper. Papyrus 52, 100 to 175 AD, has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error, because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect match to the Textus Receptus.
Okay. Well, so we will check the critical text. But what I'll do is I'll finish this side of the papyri, then we'll check with the critical text how many changes there are, and then we'll jump back to this issue, because obviously this issue, he's mentioned it. I'm glad he has mentioned it. He hasn't elaborated on it, and this is only like a 4-minute video, so he's not elaborating on each point where maybe he does in his books or whatever. So, but we're just going to go through and examine these things ourselves. So there is definitely, he's in agreement with me, with everyone. There is an omicron there. So the next letter is a P, P there. So let's just check and see if that would be warranted. So the issue that I'm bringing up is you have the rho, iota, omega, nu there, and in the TR you don't have the omicron. But if you go to the Westcott and Hort text, you have the same one with the omicron, and that's in the Nestle text. And it's actually in the Byzantine majority. Byzantine majority is the same as a TR. So It does seem like that's a critical text type of thing. It is a variant there, so that's interesting. And I guess, you know, he's saying it's just a typo. It's just you know, when I say a typo, obviously I'm saying it's a textual variant. You know, I know they didn't have typewriters back then. You get people saying that. You realize you didn't have a typewriter back then. It's like, yeah, I know that. So we'll continue through, and we'll go through, because there's not much else to go till we get to the 7th line on the first side. And then I'll compare all this with the critical text. Okay. So let's just see if there's some comments here. So Dwayne says there's no uniformity to the letters. It wasn't a professional scribe who wrote it. Okay. Okay. Kenyon Bauer says, what's the best way to begin learning Greek? I would listen to one of the best things to do is just dive straight in, find passages that you're very interested in already. It's a bit like trying to get, if you start reading Deuteronomy straight away and you're not really fascinated by it, you'll get bored with reading the Bible. And so I'd encourage people to read things that are relevant to them. And in the same way, when it comes to Greek, find your favorite passages. Like I used to go through the book of Revelation and, see the Alpha and the Omega, because it's to do with Greek, the beginning and the end, the arche, telos, these type of things where when I was first a Christian, looking at these things in the text really helped me. Listen to audio Greek as well. Just jump on, type in audio Bible, and you can oftentimes read along. If you type in Textus Receptus Matthew 1, you can just read along. It has, you can basically just go over it. Learn the alphabet, obviously, and I would say learn modern Greek. It's a lot more. There's a lot more material with modern Greek, and speaking a language that no one speaks anymore. Like it's like saying, let's learn how to read the Wycliffe Bible, but let's speak like them. And you're like, bertie, you sound, no one else sounds like this. So you may as well just learn modern English and read it that way. But you may as well just learn modern Greek and read the Bible that way. It seems like the best way. But anyway, hopefully that helps. In the NA28, there's no variant in this section. Okay, that's interesting. It doesn't look like a sigma. Yeah, it didn't look like a sigma to me either. But then again, like when you look at, say, this Omicron here, it's got a blob in the middle. It does, I see what they're doing here. That they seem to have this circular way of going around like that. So maybe that's what they were doing. Let's just check it out. So maybe it was start from here and finish there or something, and just sort of, that's just blobbing, like taking off the page, or where the pen stopped or something. But yeah, you would think they would go around like that. But it does seem like some of these, they're starting here and ending up here, which is a weird thing. But that looks like a sigma there. So you can see they're very similar, but it just does, it's just this blob in the middle. So I would say that's more like an error. I mean, how do you get rid of an ink blotch? If they've just rested their pen for a second and it's leaked out, it's like, what do you do? Calvin says, I really admire and appreciate Nick's dedication to these studies. He has made a huge dent in the arguments of the modern text critics and opened many others' eyes as to why we must fight the good fight. Thanks, Calvin. Dwayne says they must have conjectured a sigma. But then the epsilons have a longer middle line. Yeah, so that's the thing. That's why I'm like, no, it seems like an ink blotch. Again, it wasn't a professional scribe. Maybe this was practice for a student. It was a grocery list. Probably a letter to the manager about some poor quality copper received from the blacksmith. So Dwayne says, yeah, it's a Sigma, but just with a blip of the pan, yes. So CA says the inkblot hypothesis sounds plausible to me. I tried signing a friend's name on a Bible I gave away, and the pen decided to leak and make a ton of those. Yeah, and I guess you think he's just gone here. It's a bit blotchy here, a bit blotchy there, and he's just gone blob, like gone there. Or maybe he actually went to write another letter, and he's like, oh, whoops, and he's just gone blob there. So that could just be like beginning to write something else. So anyway, interesting. Dwayne says, yes, movable new. I wouldn't count those. They're inconsistent, both in manuscripts and printed editions. Yes. It's like counting full stops or something. It's like they can vary, or commas, or okay. I'll just catch up with these comments. Lotesiation is the cause. Okay, so it's he's saying it's phonetic. Iselthen sounded the same as Iselthen. Okay, we see that all the time. Okay, very good point. Okay, that's great, and I'm glad that you're bringing that out, because that is one of the issues there. So yeah, I guess if it's spoken, if someone's writing something down, and so that would that could point to P52 being something that was heard and maybe written down. Maybe a scribe, someone was speaking it and someone was writing down. Maybe it's a sermon note. But yeah, interesting. Dwayne says the double epsilon sounded dominating to the vowel sounds. So it all began to take on the same sound. Yeah, and we see in modern Greek, everything just sort of seems to sound like an E. We say, kini diatheke, and where the Erasmi is like koine diatheke. And so anyway, Dwayne says that's why there's so much confusion between the umis and the amis, because they sound the same. Yes. Wasn't there an Omicron related to the COVID? Yeah. Lambert says, do you do streams on the Bible, of the Bible canon? I guess it just depends if someone brings up those issues. I know there is a lot of talk about that at the moment. And people also talking about the last 12 verses of Mark. Roman Catholics bringing that up, issues with the canon. I started watching one yesterday. So anyway, people are talking about that issue. But yeah, I guess in a way, I tend to focus more on minutiae. Things like the canon and whether the Roman Catholics or the Orthodox are right. Like I've already sort of made up my mind on that. So I'm sort of more focusing on, issues to do with the text. Obviously I'm trying to see if it, not if the Textus Receptus is right, but I'm trying to see what backs up Textus Receptus, the apologetic for the TR. And so that's my main thing. If that does come around to the canon, probably Jeff Riddle, maybe even Robert Truelove, these guys did a whole conference on texting canon. I think it was back in 2019, so it might have been 6 years ago. And they brought up a lot of very interesting things that needed to be talked about. But yeah, I don't tend to look at broader issues like that unless I'm sort of in a debate where I have to talk about those things. I tend to gravitate more towards the minutiae and the tiny, looking at a letter here and there and going, well, what's the difference between this and that? And, Lambert says, does anyone in the chat want a short discussion about the canon? And so, yeah, man, go for it, So Josh Allen is in the house, and Josh says, hi, Nick, I was the editor of this video. If you can I can send you, Mr. Coombs, more detailed notes on each fragment. Yeah, that would be really cool, actually. And so I think you were the one contacting me on Facebook where I quickly had to get it off the screen. Sometimes people are like, yeah, Nick, that really personal thing we were just talking about, and I've got it on the screen. I'm like, quickly get it off, Now I'll just see if I've still got Facebook up here. Yes, I do. Okay, so it was just, yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. And so I was looking for the full lecture on the channel. I couldn't seem to find it, but maybe it's an older one. But yeah, and the thing is too, I was supposed to be doing a whole show with Matt Singleton today, and we spent about 40 minutes trying to fix his audio, which kept echoing back and stuff, and it wasn't going to make for a good show. So I just thought, well, I'll quickly do this one. That's why I'm sort of shooting from the hip here. I'll keep catching up with these, but yeah, thanks, Josh. That'd be great if you've got any more information. That'd be very helpful. Okay, so Josh is on the ball. He just sent me an attachment. Mad. Okay, I don't know where that opened. Oh yeah, downloaded. There we go. Okay, we've got P32 analysis, P52 analysis. Great. Okay. Yeah, and he actually, those two things, that is gold, because it means he's done the research. Now, I don't mean to just show this, for copyright issues or whatever, but that was the issue that we're talking about. And the iota, sigma. So he's pointed those out straight away. So that's a good sign that he has done some good, thorough research there. But he just didn't, feel to bring it all up. Obviously it's a 4-minute video, so it's very limited. So yeah, really appreciate that, and I'll sort of read that on the side here as we're going through. Calvin says, "Hey Lambert, just about every issue is covered at some point, but today it's Greek manuscript, or papyri rather. If you have a question, just post it with a couple of question marks before and after, and Nick should answer if he knows." And Bold as a Lion is in the house. And I'm just skipping over some of these comments. Josh said he's happy to help. Thanks, Josh. Okay, so let's just go through the next line. So I think we can all agree this is a P, an epsilon, and a nu. So that's exactly what it has. Sorry, wrong line. So this is a rho, an iota, omicron, and a nu. So we can see that, and then we can see the omicron, and that's the one that gets talked about, and that's the one that actually backs up the Westcott and Hort text. And then we have the P here. So I think we're all in agreement with that one. So let me just check my little page here and see. So that's the issue there. How's that in the TR? So we have those, but we have that omicron that it is actually there, and that is in favor of the Westcott and Hort text. So it can be a typo, but it does read exactly as the Westcott and Hort text. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to think about that. So we've only got 2 more lines and basically 3 little sections. So let's check this out. The K, the conjunction here, I think we're all in agreement. That's a kappa, an alpha, and an iota. And then we have an epsilon, an iota, and a p here. And so it's interesting they did the little lip at the bottom there, just like we would see in the symbol of pi. I think we're in agreement there. So, and I'll just do the last one at the same time. Looks like an alpha, an iota. Okay, so the alpha is not that clear. The iota seems to come in from the cursive, and then we have the omega here. So I'll just check. I'll check the printed analysis. Here we go. And let's check that out. So I think we're still in verse 33. So we saw we'll check that line out first. Okay, so it looks like it's the K there, and the epsilon, iota, and P there. It seems to match with Nestle's anyway. So let's go down, see if it's the same in these texts. So we're looking at these letters. Maybe I can just search for them. Here we go. They're all highlighted, and it seems the same in all. So it's the same in the TR and everywhere else. And the last one we're looking for is an alpha, iota, and an omicron. Sorry, an omega, not an omicron. I'm getting my O's mixed up. So omicron means O small, omega means omega, the big O. So where are we there? So that would be this word here, eudion. So Basilius ton eudion, which is thou art the king of the Jews. And so Basilius, king, and then eudion, the Jews. So we're looking at the alpha, iota, and omega here. Let's check that out. So the alpha and iota, I wonder if we do have another alpha and iota here that we can check with. Alpha, iota, looks promising. Okay. Alpha and iota. Okay, it's a little bit scrubbed, but we can see the alpha iota here. So let's see if that's similar to down the bottom. Alpha, iota. Because you do forget, you look at it and go, yeah, that's what it does. So it seems to join in the middle there. I mean, this looks like a line with like a little circle underneath it. So just imagine if we had a line with a circle underneath it. But it is interesting that iota does tend to carry on from there. But some of these iotas, this one here, seems to carry on from there. So it looks like they've gone up over the top. Interesting. But I think all the texts seem to be in agreement with that. So I will go with that reading. Now I'll just double check Wikipedia. And now that I know that these readings are good, I will double check with Wikipedia and to see if there's any difference. Because sometimes people can spot something and they'll mark it there, but it doesn't, it doesn't make its way up to the Academy. So that looks correct. And I think the only difference that we saw there was the iota was different because it should be boldened, but it was hard to see. So I guess maybe this is another independent person looking at that, and maybe I can make this nice and big so we can. We've sort of done looking at the papyri on that side for the moment. So we're sort of just looking at these issues here. So I'll keep that open in the background. Okay, and I need my other little thing going. There we go. Uthena, and then Ina, and then Hot, and then L for Logos, Pen, Semen, U, and that's the same there. I'll just quickly look at this. See if there's any difference. It looks the same. Well, it would be the same because I copied and pasted it from there, but I'm looking for the red writing. Line 4. It looks the same. Line 5 looks the same. That looks the same. Yes, that looks good. I'll just double check this with that one. Saying the same thing, same thing, same thing. Okay, so it seems like the only difference was this one is not bold in the Wikipedia page, and that could just be something that is a bit of oversight or something like that. So I think we will look at this side because we've already gone for an hour going through that. So we'll look at this side of it, and this seems like the side where it's got the definite article that is mentioned. So we do want to focus in on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the critical text, and we're going to. Sorry, someone said I was muted. Okay. No, it doesn't look like I'm muted. Maybe my bandwidth died or something. But okay, so let's I was looking at that. So let's look at what we need to look at this side. Now I might just quickly go through this. Now I don't want to show. Okay, so this is these are some of the notes from my new book, Magnified Above His Name. So these are the notes that Josh just sent me. P52 is a piece of the Gospel of John written on front and back, containing John 18:31 to 33 and John 18:37 to 38. Once again, P52 was found in Egypt. There is a disagreement amongst scholars as to what the date is to assign to P52. Some say it's 100 to 150. Some say it should be 125 to 175. In either case, it is assigned to the 2nd century. What do we find with P52? My conclusions here are based on my own comparison with P52 with the received text and scholarly review of, and a review of scholarly opinions. I will start with the base conclusion that there are differences between P52 and the received text. Does that mean P52 is a different kind of text? No, but scholars have left P52 uncategorized, and 3 differences are as below. So we're looking at the, I'd love to show you this, but I'm not sure how much I can show this without it being, part of the, showing someone's book and it being copyrighted. So, but we can, it was those issues that we looked at. So the epsilon was missing there 2 times. So I'm pretty sure that's what we're looking at there. And he's mentioned those, which is good, because in the little clip we're like, oh, does he know about them? And he obviously does. So it says here, the third issue that he's brought up is that Omicron, and we're going to look at that issue because that does match up with the Westcott-Hort text. So regardless of what it says on the other side of the text, which would be great to go through, I think we can do enough work just with what we've got here. And so let me just read this other section. It says, the first two differences are clearly different spelling, but they're the same words. The third instance is unclear. However, scholars think that the OP are part of Pilatos. So it is spelled out in like English letters here. So sometimes you can, it's like, is it an OP or is it an O? Omicron you know, obviously, I'll just read through it as it says it here. It would mean P52 left out or the TR added Palin. However, the simplest conclusion is that OP was for O Palin, not O Palatos. That would mean the scribe misplaced the ho, putting it in front of Palin instead of, or rather than Palatos. This would not be unusual in handwritten manuscripts. That sort of thing certainly happens. In the space of this small paragraph, I have made several errors and had to correct them. 1800 years ago, when one was writing with pen and ink on papyrus, corrections were not easily to make. My conclusion is that P52 matches the traditional text, except for the two spelling differences. Okay, so in a sense, where he's saying the two issues that we found with the epsilon and the iota sigma with the missing epsilon sort of thing, that these are just, like as Dwayne was saying, these are just phonetic instances. But when it comes to the third one, he's saying that that was like a typo sort of thing. So we're going to examine that claim. And we're going to see. Now, I'll make that smaller. I'll gather my thoughts of exactly what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do, we are going to focus on this. So I'm actually going to play that video again, because that's where he is clearly talking about that. Let me just see if I can find that video again. Here we go. Okay, so he sent me the analysis for, Josh has sent me in my Facebook the analysis of P32, P52, and P64. And he's given me a link to the full lecture. Okay, so I think I will, I'll definitely look at that a bit later, because I guess the full lecture goes into a whole different bunch of other things, and we want to sort of focus in on what was said here at the beginning, rather than just the broad view. But I will copy that link. So it's a 2023 conference. I'll copy that link into the chat so everyone can just go and watch that at their own leisure. Yeah, so Dwayne's saying the fragment is too small to categorize. Yeah, I guess when you've just got a tiny little difference, it's like, well, is that TR? Is that, what is it, you know? So, and obviously it's in a part of John where there's not that many issues. So now I want to read some of the comments. So there's 8 comments here. I might be able to just put my Facebook here. So it says, Anthony Lund says, videos like this are misleading. Don't paint the whole picture. and seem to have inconsistencies. Now, I hate the most relevant section of Facebook. I always put it on all comments because sometimes you don't know if it's the first or the second or the third issue. So he has quite a long thing written here. He's saying it's a misleading video. They need to be more careful and transparent. This weakens the defense of the traditional text. Okay. Anyway, this guy seems to be like a TR guy, but he's not really keen on this video for some reason. I really don't have that much time to go through it. JL Looney, I think he's one of the only guys I've actually blocked on Facebook. No, actually, I think I unblocked him. There's a few anti-TR guys who I just, every time I'm online, they just like, admit you're a King James only Ruckmanite. Do it now. And it's like, get lost. And they just keep hounding me until I block them, you know. But every now and then I get a kind heart and I unblock them and they keep doing it. But I'm pretty sure I've seen Joe Looney around. There was another guy, Gwyn, and he's a 32nd degree Mason. I unblocked him and he was straight at my throat. I was like, block again. And there's Ken Bakerfield, who I just reply going, okay, nice. No matter what he says, I just write that. I just go, okay, Ken, nice, beautiful day. You know, just what else can you say to someone who's just, you know, hell bent in just making you admit that you're a King James only Ruckmanite? It's like, get real. Of which TR is he speaking? Please, I'd really like to know. Well, it's pretty obvious. The Textus Receptus underlying the King James Bible. Eric Cultish says, I wonder which text prior to the 1598 read the way Beza wrote Revelation 16:5 verbatim. Spoiler alert, 0. Well, if it's a nomina sacra, I wonder if Eric can tell me which manuscripts of Matthew chapter 1 have that word, the name Jesus, expanded instead of having a nomina sacra there. All the manuscripts have a nomina sacra there. So you expand that. So having Revelation 16:5 with the word holy, it's an indicator that it's the name of Jehovah, the past, present, and future, the three I ams. The three I ams equal Jehovah past, Jehovah present, and Jehovah future, which is spelled out in Greek in Revelation 16:5 with which art and wast and shall be. It's a perfect etymology of the name of Jehovah. So it's marked as a nomina sacra with the word holy there. When you expand nomina sacra, no one has a problem with Jesus being expanded or Christ being expanded. But if you don't know it's the name of Jehovah, which most people haven't known for 200 years, you can't expand it. Beza knew this. One of his best friends was Tremelius, who was fluent in Hebrew, and he knew his stuff. And so they knew the etymology of Jehovah. He describes this in his annotations at Revelation 1:4. So, going, spoiler alert, there's no manuscripts that say that. Okay, spoiler alert, there's no manuscripts that say Jesus in Matthew 1:1. But then you go, oh, no, you just have to know nomina sacra. That's what I'm saying. If you don't understand these things, if you don't know, if no one on the critical text side has actually recognized the name of Jehovah is there, you have no chance of even thinking that it's going to be a nomina sacra. So for the last 200 years, all they've said is there's no manuscripts there, instead of actually understanding what Beza himself said. Okay, so that's basically the comments. Because the reason I went through these comments, because it was posted again, and it says here, it has come to our attention that the critical text advocates find the information contained in this video to be uncomfortable and undermining to their position. In an attempt at not making them look any worse than they already do, we have decided to delete the video as a show of good faith. However, a horrible accident occurred as we tried to press the delete button, and we accidentally shared the video again. Oh, the humanity. To help mitigate the damage, we can only ask that if you do not want the critical text position to look bad, please do not share this video. So that sounds like Josh. He's got a very dry sense of humor like that, and that's cool. He's a very nice guy. very good singer actually as well. So, but let's. I'm gonna shut that down. I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to go back to this. And let's just show this again. Okay, it's a very small clip.
That was error. 100 these little pieces of paper. Papyrus 52, 100 to 175 AD, has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error, because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect
Okay, so besides that, it's a perfect representation.
Match to the Textus Receptus.
Okay, so let's look at this claim. Okay, I'll just shut Facebook down there. So maybe I can see on Wikipedia if there is an issue with the Omicron. Oops, Omi. Maybe I can just search for an Omicron. Maybe all the O's will come up as well, but it's worth a try. Oh, there's 54 of them. No, they do look like they are only detecting the Greek. So let's go through that. Make some clicking noises. Okay. Okay, so two other ioticisms. So they're called ioticisms. So it looks like it has the iota here, where that was where the epsilon was in front of that, and that's in the critical text and the TR, and this is the other issue here. So and Dwayne Green was talking about that earlier. So they are officially called ioticism. Ioticism. Okay. Very good to know these technical terms. So then we have this issue here. So that's the rho iota, omicron, and the nu, and then we have the omicron again here. So that's the issue. Now let me just read what it says here. And in lines 4 and 5 of the recto, so you have the verso and recto, which is just one side and the other. The reconstructed text reads, and so it's got it written there in, okay, so then it's showing you what else is written there. Okay. However, this is not considered a significant variant since this fragment is small. So it's 9 centimeters by 6 centimeters. It cannot be proven that it comes from a full copy of the Gospel of John, but it may be presumed that the original text was at least of near full Gospel length. To be worth the extra care and time required in writing in a codex form. On the other hand, the generous scale and format of the codex pages of P52 are such that it is highly unlikely that it could originally have comprised the 4 canonical gospels. So they're just talking about those issues. So it doesn't really address it that much. So, but it does say that it is in agreement with P66, with Codex Vaticanus, whereas Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Alexandrinus and the majority texts all have the alternative word order. Okay, so it's got a full alternative word order. Now I'm going to get these side by side so we can see exactly what this is. Okay, I'll get my little rough page put back up here. Let's not deal with those issues of the other side yet. Let's just get these side by side. Okay. Get rid of that. Get rid of that and that. Okay. So it's saying Sinaiticus Alexandrinus and the majority text. So that it probably means the Textus Receptus as well. And we can just check that here. Let's just have a quick look of what would actually be here. RON, Palin, Ho, Palanto. So yeah, it's basically the TR reading, which apparently Sinaiticus Alexandrinus and the majority takes back up as well. But P66 and Codex Vaticanus don't agree with that reading. They go with this reading at the top, which has the Ho beforehand. So here we have the rho iota omicron nu. Now I might just delete everything else here because it is a little bit confusing. So I'll go here. So whoops, you can see the issue there. And so basically it's the placement of the omicron. Now he's saying in the video, Coombs, hopefully I'm saying his name correct, Coombs. He's saying that, well, that's basically what the manuscript has. This is the TR reading, and he's saying, well, it doesn't really matter that much. Now we're going to look into this issue. This is what we're going to focus on, and I will go back through and look at his claims. The Ho Pilatos, here it has Ho Pilatos, which I guess is Pilate. Let's check some things out. Okay, so we are focusing on that one. That's fine. Now I'll just recalibrate everything because I've got so many things open at the moment, and maybe I don't need them all open. I don't need that one open. I'll shut it. I have 2 Wikipedia pages open. I don't need to open. Okay, I don't need the monster page open. Okay, is this the one that has... Yes, Pelin Ho Pilatos. So that seems to be the issue, okay? And it looks like in Tischendorf, he has the issue of the epsilon iota, ioticism issue there as well. Doesn't seem to be in the others. Okay, so it's in Westcott and Hort. And Westcott and Hort's based upon Tischendorf as well. The Nestle is based on Tischendorf, but Westcott and Hort have it as well. So they have the three manuscripts or 3 printed texts that they went with for the Nestle text: Westcott and Hort, the Tischendorf, and the Weiss. And sometimes the Weiss was swapped out for the Weymouth. So they have that issue there. So let's just check this manuscript out right on that point. Okay. Oops. Here. Okay, so I might get, so it's definitely the rho iota omicron and nu is in all of them. So the TR is having that. It doesn't have with the definite article there. And that's where the Westcott and Hort text does have the definite article there. So I'm guessing if it wasn't matching with the Westcott and Hort text, I would be like, okay, yes, it's reading as a TR. If it was just a variant, sometimes we have these type of variants. Now it is just a definite article. It is something that can be, it's a common type of thing to do this. But, I'll just keep examining that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to examine the critical text. Where are we? I'm going to examine the critical text with, I'll grab this one here, with what we've got written there. So let's go down to verse 31. So I think it started there. Let's grab my computer's sort of dying. Oh no, here it is. I thought my computer was dying for a second there, but it's on the other screen. Now, where are we starting? The hoi. So let's go up a bit. Hoi. And it seems to go down to about there. That's the critical text. Now we are going to examine the issues here. So that is number one. No, that's not number one. That is number one. And that is number two. And then we're at verse 32, and then we're looking at that being number three. And apo, that is number four. And then we've got verse 33 happening. And Berlinto, and then the Rion, number 5. Okay, and ends in Iota, Omicron, Upsilon. Actually, it ends in Jesus. There we go. 6 and 7 there. Okay. So I will quickly go to my website. And I'll get some random page. It's an interesting thing I can do on my website. Okay, so now I'm just in the portal of manuscripts in Talk. Okay, now I'm going to edit this. We'll just get rid of that. Now what I'm firstly going to do, I'm going to put the TR in there. And I will put Textus Receptus in there. I'll just write TR at the top. Now we will, no, we don't have to do anything else. That's the TR. Let's save that page. Okay, now let's edit it again. And we'll put the critical text there. So we'll put CT. We'll override all that. And we'll save it. Okay, now let's have a look at the differences. History. Okay, so it's showing us the differences now. The 32, I put a space there. That's fine. It's got a comma there. So this is the difference between the critical text and the Textus Receptus. So it's good to look at. You know. So we're looking at the movable nu there. It's not an issue. Okay, so they have the Palin here, where they, in the TR, it looks like it's moved all the way to there, which is interesting. So critical texts have the Palin in the previous line, so earlier in verse 33. So that's interesting. Now they have this line here, which is basically to show where there's, because the one that I picked was the Westcott and Hort / Nestle Alarm 27th edition. So I'm pretty sure that would be the Westcott and Hort, and they've just sort of tidied that up with that iota issue and sort of merged those two together. This seems to have just a movable nu. So apart from that, with a comma, the issue is this Palin has seemed to have floated to there. So let's check the manuscript, because we've got that written out as well, and we'll check that with the critical text. Okay, so let's go to edit that. Now we're going to go say P52, so we know exactly what it is. Let's override all that. Now we'll save it, and we'll see the differences. History, last. Oh, it's showing everything different. That's not a good sign. The only one that's the same as this, I guess, because it's got all the little inflections and things like that as well. So maybe we can just read through it and just see if there's any difference. Okay, so inner logos, looking very much the same. Can't see really any differences there. But the thing is, if they're putting a Palin in there, we've got to make sure that that's in the text. If it's added, if it's not part of the actual text, that could throw everything off of how people are reading P52. Because if they're comparing it to the critical text, they've written out the critical text and they're saying, well, it should read this and should read that. So we're going to examine that type of thing. And so, okay, Pilatos. Okay, so it does look like they were basing the whole thing off the critical text. Now let's look back at the manuscript. Okay, so we're going to check and see if it's got the Palin in there. No, the Palin is not in there, but they're assuming it's there. Okay. Interesting. So we'll go to our text, which shows the critical text. Oops, I thought my computer was dying again, but it wasn't. Okay. It is sort of dying. It's not showing all the pages that I want to show. I'll go through some of these comments. I'll let my computer catch up for a second. Josh said, check out our reply to that guy Eric's comment. Okay. I'm shutting down pages everywhere here. Aha, there we go. That makes sense. I'll check that out, Josh. Yeah, so I saw that as well. David Daniels was on Truth is Christ and Brandon Peterson's channel. So that would be an interesting one to watch. I haven't seen that one. Okay, so okay. Now, right in the middle of a study, my computer is deciding to freeze. So what I might do, StreamYard will just keep going. And I know this is getting to the point where it's like probably boring people to tears, but I'm actually going to reboot my computer so I stop having these issues. It'll probably take about like a minute or two, and then I'll be back. But StreamYard will just keep going. So I'll be back in a second. I might have to quickly put that link in like a Facebook chat somewhere so I don't just lose it. There we go. Okay. Back soon. Actually, I'll use it as a quick bathroom stop. And see, even just the fact I can't even shut my computer down. So it's showing how frozen I am. Okay. I'll have to turn it off at the power and I'll be back. I am back. Sorry about that. All right, so I have to just set up a few things. Share screen, screen number 2, share. Okay, so we still have a few of you hanging around with us. So let's get back to this now. The manuscript workspace. Let's check that out. Okay. Now, just bear with me, guys. I'll play a tiny bit of music while we're waiting. I haven't really used this much, but there is a little thing that has music in the background. Just while I'm getting everything ready and my bandwidth is bad.
There is no evidence of the
Okay, nice little tune. So we're focusing in on the Palin and the Omicron here. So the critical text guys have said this is what the manuscript is saying, and so I'm in agreement. That's definitely an Omicron, and that's definitely a P here. Now that is most certainly the rho iota Omicron nu, so the rion written at the end of that word. So what about this Omicron? Okay, so that's what we're focusing in on. So I'll get my document back up here. We'll make it nice and large. But not too large. So the issue that we're looking at is this Palin here. Because that Palin, by moving it from there down to, so I might just put in that this is the critical text. And I'll have Westcott and Hort /27. So people know it's what that is. And this is the P52. Okay. So by having the Palin there, in the TR, it's on the next line. But is it really Palin or Hot Pelitos? So it's interesting. It's been worded in a way. Let's get the text up here. Oops. Make it small. So it's been worded in a way that the if the palin wasn't there, that would make it shorter. So is there anywhere else where there is rho, iota, omicron, nu? It doesn't look like that. It would be very rare for that to occur. Is it ho palin or ho pelitos? So it looks like they have ho pelitos here because the palin has already been there, where the Textus Receptus just has palin. So I guess in a way, when it's like, okay, this is in complete agreement with the Textus Receptus. Now, I don't want to, I'm a TR guy, you know, but I also, the evidence, wherever it falls, it falls. It does look like this is backing up the critical text reading. And so I guess in a way, he has, Coombs has said that it is just a typo, but it does also seem like a typo that just so happens to match up the Westcott and Hort reading. So that's where, you know, I guess saying that it backs up the Textus Receptus completely, except for this one spot, well, I'm pretty sure everything else matches up the critical text as well. But this one spot is a place where it does match up the critical text. So, you know, I'm just examining this. If it fell in favor of the TR, I'm like, yeah, cool. If it's not falling in favor of the TR and it's just neutral, it's like, okay, like we've looked at some of these other spelling variants. But this does seem to go with, it does seem to look at my first glance that it is favorable toward the Westcott and Hort text on this one particular thing. So that's where, you know, I'm going to focus in on this. I'm going to look at it, but I guess that's where, you know, I guess that's where I've got to know more about this issue. So it will have to be something I study a little bit more. So I'll go to my Facebook again. Actually, I've already downloaded it, so I'll get the P52 analysis back up, and I'll just check that out. And so he is saying that it says Praetorion Palin Hopilatos, okay, and that this is going hot Pilatos. So that one there. But the issue is that definite article is there. So the scholars think the Omicron and Rho, actually he's talking about Omicron and P. So I just, sometimes when it turns into English describing Greek, it's hard. The O and the P are part of the Hopilatos. That would mean P52 left out or the TR added Palin. However, the simplest conclusion is that the O and the P was for Ho, Palin, not Hopilatos. That would mean the scribe misplaced the Ho, putting it in front of Palin rather than Pilatos. This would not be unusual in handwritten manuscripts. This sort of thing certainly happens. In the space of a small paragraph, I have made several errors and corrected them. 1800 years ago, when one was writing with pen and ink on papyrus, corrections were not easy to make. My conclusion is that P52 matches the traditional text except for the two spelling differences. Okay. So he's saying, the critical text guys are saying it's hopulatos, okay? So we can look at the P52 one here. The palin is in the line above. That's where they put it. It doesn't exist in the text, but they're saying that according to the critical text analysis, that's where it ends up. And they have hopulatos here, okay? The TR has palin hopulatos, okay? The critical text has the palin up here and the hopulatos. So I guess he's saying the ho could be for ho palin, or palin hopulatos. So we have palin hopulatos, but we do have a definite article here. So let's check it out further. We're in verse 33, so I'll grab that up. Okay, so here's the Greek analysis here. Now, obviously, this will probably follow. Yeah, it has palin here at the beginning of the verse instead of where we would expect to see in the Textus Receptus with the praetorium and then palin after that. So here we have the praetorion ho pilatos, and the reading rion ho, and then the p there is how the manuscript reads. So that's why I'm saying it does seem to follow the it does seem to follow the Westcott and Hort text in that one ho. So could that be a typo? It could be a typo. That's what I guess what we're trying to examine here. Now, if we can prove that palin shouldn't exist here, then now I do remember I had a book with P52 in it that I got was it in the 90s? I think it was in the 90s. And it had a picture of P52, and it actually had the Greek. Maybe James Snap Jr.'s got something on P52. So P52, James Snap. Okay, so ETC blog. Okay. Maybe I'll just put James Snap in brackets there. He'll come up. We'll just check that out as well. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Okay, here we have P52. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a comment. 2017, let's look at P52. Okay. Maybe P52 is searchable here. Okay, search this blog, P52. Let's go, just type in 52. Okay. Okay, so there's quite a lot of info just on P52. here. No, it's not quite a lot. It's just a link. Okay. There's not much in that. I guess I'm just sort of just jumping around seeing what I can grab. Maybe I should really go to Wikipedia again, because there will be a lot of links. Now, we've got some comments here, which can be very helpful. So Bob's Lion says, hurry back, Nick. Hopefully I wasn't too far gone. We'll just skip over some of the other issues. Dwayne Green says, I don't think we can chalk up the placement of the Omicron to be a scribal error. Perhaps he's assuming Palin follows the Omicron, but I don't think he can justify that claim. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it could be a scribal error, but it's like, okay, well, but it does follow. So that, I guess that's the thing in the video. And, you know, I'm not saying anything against him or the King James Research Council. I'm just looking at this and going, okay, is it true? Is it not? Now, it does seem to follow the Westcott and Hort text. Now, I've done this with some things on the comma where at first I've gone, it does seem to just be someone quoting Matthew chapter 28, you know, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And I've gone through and that's sort of been my immediate conclusion. But then on further study, I'm like, actually, no, they do mention the testimony of God and all this type of thing, which was the same type of wording in John chapter 5, verse 7. So it's one of those things where you do a sort of surface look. So this guy's obviously studied this first and looked into this, and he's making these claims, but he did specifically hone in on that Omicron and say he thinks that that's a typo. If that's a typo, then the thing matches up with the TR. I guess the thing is, like, on the flip side of it, if even if it is a typo, that's fine, but actually the whole thing matches up with the Westcott and Hort text as well. So that, I guess it's not really a for or against thing. That's where we've got to look at all these things. So, okay, so I'm looking up a whole bunch of stuff there. So maybe I'll just Google P52. Okay, we'll go to images. Looks interesting. Okay, so that's on the other side. Da, 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 da. I'll look at that. I'll look at that. Very interesting picture of it. It seems like it's a little bit lumpy. Joe Rogan looking at P52. Okay. Now I'm going to type in P52 and Textus Receptus. So I don't think I would be the first one to examine these or combs, like okay, I'll check that out. Looks like a bit of an apparatus there. Interesting. Da, 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 da. All right, so let's go through some of these. Not really interesting for what we're doing. Okay, so they've got these written out here. That's sort of what I was looking for, this type of thing. We could see how they're thinking it's written out. So, okay, so the Praetorion ho pilotos, that's what they're saying is written there. And but where is their palin? And that's one of the things, if they can't fit it in, it's like, okay, why wouldn't the palin? That's what I'm sort of looking for. This would be the next thing that I would go to is the critical text. They have their palin on the previous line. Okay. It looks like it says malin, but it should be palin. Malin there. I'm not sure why they have that. Let's just check this out. So the critical text has the palin, has palin. Yeah, it's just a typo. It says malin here. Okay, so I guess it's probably the best one that I've seen so far because it's just written out like this, how they think it would be written out, but it seems to have an error in it. Now I'm going to visit that page. We'll leave that open. Maybe I can make it bigger. It's all in French. Okay, there we go. You can see what I mean. It says malin here, or I should say palin. Okay, interesting. Dan Wallace, earliest manuscripts of the New Testament. So that's the issue there. The rho iota omicron nu with this ha here. And that is a P for either palin or pilotos. You wouldn't put a definite article in front of palin. It just means like after. But yeah, that's a very interesting looking manuscript there. I might visit that site. We'll just go back. Sometimes they give us just a different angle on a manuscript. Okay, variant readings. That might be an interesting one to look at too. So okay, P51, 52, sorry. So Brent Nombury seems to have done some work on this. I was sort of looking at doing some stuff on the papyri, but when this video came up, I thought, well, that's a good opportunity to do it. Okay, I'm not sure why that all just shut down. Or did it shut down? It did. Okay, let's reopen it. Okay. Dwayne Green says, it's totally possible that Palin may not even be in the manuscript. Palin and Pilatos are close enough in size. Given the inconsistency of the scribe, measuring letters would be difficult to determine it. Yeah. That would be an interesting thing to do, though. Just to get an average size of the letter and put it in the type of structure that they've got written there, and see if Palin fits, or what's more logical, where Palin would fit in. Could it be homoioteiton? I don't think so. They seem to have the other lines matching up. There's a number of manuscripts that don't have Palin there, so it's quite possible it's on it, P52. Interesting. So I've got Swanson up on John. Palin in some manuscripts appear after Ase Lethan Un instead. Yes. So, yeah, that's where it's appearing on the line above. I think it's possibly more fair to say that he wants it to be a typo. Yes. Yeah. Because I guess, in a sense, it is everything's TR matching up, but everything's also critical text. Because there are some verses that are exactly the same in places. But it does have this definite article there that does seemingly, on first glance, look like it's matching the Westcott and Hall text. So that's where we have to, study this and look at Palin, where Palin fits, and basically, I guess maybe I can chat GPT as well. Let's just ask chat GPT. Yeah, how would you word this? I want you to be a New Testament scholar and critic. Tell me who has written about P52, specifically the definite article ho, and also separately about Palin. Let's see what it says. As a New Testament scholar and critic, I can provide information on scholarly discussions concerning Papyrus, P52, particularly regarding the definite article ha and the term Palin. So it's most likely going to give us a critical text understanding, but that's fine. We've got to start somewhere. The definite article ha in P52 P52 is a fragment of the Gospel of John containing portions of John 18, 31 to 33 on the recto and 37 to 38 on the verso. The use of the definite article ho is a common feature in Greek manuscripts. While P52 is fragmentary, scholars have analyzed this text for such grammatical elements. So this is on crosstalk.com. Now I'm going to open that up. It just seems like a summary of that manuscript. I guess one of the hard things is too, P52 is one of those manuscripts that James White's holding up, Wes Huff is holding up, Joe Rogan's reading. It's just become this popular, iconic thing. And so trying to find details, you're just going to get articles of like, this is the oldest, yay, you know, millions of those type of articles now. So it's going to be hard to hone right in and get these details. You have to go through all the weeds of just like Christianity Today says yay, you know, sort of thing. A notable scholar, Christopher M. Tuckett, has examined P52 in the context of scribal practices, including the use of nomina sacra, sacred names abbreviated in manuscripts. In his article P52 and Nomina Sacra, published in New Testament Studies, Tuckett discusses the presence or absence of these abbreviations in P52, which indirectly relates to the use of articles like ho when referring to divine titles. He suggests that the scribe of P52 may not have employed the Nomina Sacra convention, which could have implications for how definite articles were used in reference to sacred names. That's interesting because it does have the name Jesus there. We saw that, but it doesn't. Yeah, that it's interesting because the name Jesus appears, but it's not actually in the manuscript. Okay. I didn't spot any other names. I'll just quickly jump onto was it the recto or the verso? I think we're on the verso. I'll just see if there's any type of nomina sacra. Whoops, opening the wrong thing. I'll just copy that actually. Paste it in there, and then we'll open it. So I don't think there's anywhere where there's a name there. So even just talking about the nomina sacra, it doesn't seem like it's a because it doesn't have nomina sacra. If it doesn't have sacred names in it, like it has the name Jesus, but it's not actually here written down. It's somewhere in the missing text. So Calvin says, yep, Dwayne Green, just like Tischendorf wanted Sinaiticus to be what he wanted it to be. Dwayne says quite possibly Clemens. There's lots of textual, lots of bias in textual research. Tischendorf was one of the worst in my opinion. I have to find the quote, but basically he admits that he likes D where it fits his readings, but he discards the rest. Oh, that's interesting, because that would explain why sometimes you go through Tischendorf and it's completely different to Westcott and Hort, majority text, Textus Receptus, and everything. It was Codex Bobiensis, the worst Latin manuscript. So Dwayne says, I don't think Nick would mind me sharing. I did a short called An Example of Obvious Bias in Modern Text Critical History. You'll have to look it up since YouTube does not allow sharing links. It was Tregillis's statement on Codex Bobiensis. I believe I watched it already at Dwayne Green. We'll check it out just in case. I watch a lot of your content, brother. If a TR reading were here, so this is Dwayne Green. if the TR reading were here, it'd be right up there with you, Nick. But I don't think this is the win he thinks it is. Yeah. So that's the thing. I've watched the video and gone, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a really good concept to think about. And I've come to this completely neutral, going, I don't know anything. I have no, like, I can just go back to, yeah, it's probably a critical text type of manuscript or whatever, which people are saying. But then I'm just asking questions and seeing, well, maybe he's actually on the right track, but just is using the wrong argumentation. But at the moment, it does seem like the Hort does back up the Westcott and Hort type of text. So he's saying it's a typo, but it's like that could be seen by the critical text guys as a convenient, that let's forget that little fact and let's just move on with it. So, yeah. So I guess that's the, you can obviously see the conclusions that I'm coming to here. I've always had problems watching Dwayne as the audio keeps pausing for some reason. Yeah, I guess, Dwayne, because I listen to all your material as well. I think when you turn your head away from the mic to look at the screen, it does, like, because I listen with headphones and sometimes it'll boom when you're talking directly into it. And then when you're on the side, it's so low that I'll turn it up, but then it will boom back again. And so not to the point where I can't listen to it, but it is quite a distinction where I guess having the mic, or maybe even having the questions in front, if you're going to use the mic like that, having it a constant, like, because I used to be a song leader, we used to always have that problem with getting backups to not hold the mic down like that, or like that, and then turning, or when they're doing the high notes to pull the mic back a bit, and so you're not screaming right into it. So I sort of know a bit about mic distribution, and yeah, I've sort of noticed that. I have mentioned it a few times just in the chat. So just because you're here and people bringing it up, I thought I'd bring it up again. And so it's crazy because I hear Nick's voice just fine. I actually only use a laptop, and I used to have headphones with a mic and all. Used to have another mic and everything. I dumped everything, and now I just use the laptop audio, the mic, and the camera, all from the laptop, and they work fine. And no one's ever mentioned anything. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm just going to go with the basic stuff, because I do have like a whole setup where I can turn the gain and things on and off and all sorts of things. But I've found that this setup of just bog standard a laptop just seems to work. Weird, no one else seems to be having issues. I guess I've just confirmed that there are a few little issues. I think I was mentioning it, that when you turn your head, the volume drops down. But anyway, we'll work that out. P66 has Palin after Iselthen, Un, and on top of that, there are 0 manuscripts that have the Omicron before Palin in this passage. Okay, so I'll jump back to the other side. Okay. Yeah, so I think it was Vaticanus P66, but where Sinaiticus, the majority text, Alexandrinus all have the Textus Receptus Byzantine type reading of Praetorian Palin. So it's interesting. And I guess this is probably the door into going, see, Vaticanus and P66 are both related to this early document. You know how you've got that whole argument with James White, but when you look at it, it's like, regardless of this document, P66 and Vaticanus only have like 79% genealogical coherence, which 78% is the cutoff point. And so when they're talking about a clean transmission, and all this sort of stuff, they're different enough so that you can tell they're not just copies of each other, but they go back to an earlier source. And I guess that would be the type of argument that is used here. So Calvin says, yeah, I think it's at your end, Bold. I've never had a problem with the audio. I always cast the TV. So I guess it could be listening on headphones, because you do have if someone's listening loud to something, where sometimes I listen to it on a certain level and it can drop right down very quickly. So Dwayne's saying, I'm more convinced that this is a dud. Yes, the more that I'm thinking about it, I'm sort of like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the other things, and I probably won't have time to get right involved with them. But I will keep just looking at this Palin issue. I'll see what ChatGPT brings up, and maybe some people have talked about this. So we're not just reinventing the wheel and someone's already done all the homework for us, which they probably have, being such a popular manuscript. Dwayne says, we should be clear, though. Stirs has shown that there are Byzantine readings in the papyri and has put them in the appendix. Could have simply appealed to that instead. Well, I have Harry Stirs right here. So let's just have a look and see what he says. Maybe he's got an index at the back that we can use. Index of subjects. He's got scriptures. Okay, so John, he doesn't have John 18 there, so I don't think he talks about P52. He might talk about P52, but he doesn't talk about the scriptures involved, which would probably more so mean that he doesn't go into it. But some of these books are so much like a library indexing system that you have to read through the book, because they could, like, to have all the tabulation at the back, you've got like another book. So, and some of these books are so detailed. But yeah, I can't see P52 being mentioned. Oh yeah, actually, Codex. That's bibliography. Maybe in the front of the book. Actually, is that going through Luke? It is. Well, half this book is appendices. So that, I guess that's where you got to look through all that. Okay, Luke, John. Oh, here we go. Anyway, that I'm boring everyone to tears with that one, because these kind of mistakes only make the Byzantine look bad. I've borrowed a fancy $400 mic to see if it will fix the issue. I actually don't think your mic has a problem. I think it's actually the turning of the head thing, because when you're singing and you turn your head, it just drops out. Or when you're talking, what I've noticed when you're talking and you turn to read the comments on the screen, your voice is projecting to that way and it drops right down. So, okay, so Dwayne says, right, but P52 is way too small to determine any coherence with Vaticanus. Yeah, but I guess we know what the critical text guys are like. They'll focus in on this one definite article and say, see, this is a Westcott Hort reading. So I guess I'm just doing what they would do. It could be a typo. Calvin says, I do love to watch and learn this type of work ethic on these issues being carried out, especially the back and forth with the two experts, even though I'm older and them both put together. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on P52, but I just wanted to examine this for myself before I was like, yeah, I put it on my Textus Receptus Academy. People are watching it going, okay, this is interesting, but it's, sometimes the claims that seem too good to be true sometimes are too good to be true. But also sometimes someone has taken and advanced something and pointed out things that we really should know, or perhaps there's more in the video or in his book than I'm understanding. So, additionally, Larry, so this is ChatGPT again, Larry Hurtado, I should know how to pronounce his name. I've said it so many times. Hurtado, Larry Hurtado, I guess it's potato or potato, has addressed the topic of his work in P52 and the Nominus Sacra method and probability, where he analyzes the likelihood of Nominus Sacra appearing in such early manuscripts and what that indicates about scribal habits, including the definite articles. Okay. So the term palin in P52, the Greek adverb palin, meaning again, appears in John 18:33. One of the verses particularly preserved in P52. Okay. While the fragmentary nature of P52 makes it challenging to analyze and complete usage of palin, scholars have considered its presence in the context of reconstructing the text and understanding the narrative flow. In the broader scope of textual criticism, discussions about specific words like palin in P52 are limited due to the fragment's brevity. However, the analysis of P52's text, they contribute to our understanding of the Gospel of John's transmission and the consistency of the wording across manuscripts. So, interesting. So further reading is Christopher M. Tuckett and Larry Hurtado and Brent Nombury. And so I might go to, it says Nombury here. Here we go. I think I brought up this page before. A new article on P52. The latest issue of New Testament Studies contains an article I wrote on P52, the fragmentary leaf on the Codex, generally regarded as the earliest living copy of the Gospel of John, and indeed earliest surviving copy of any of the texts that eventually ended up in the New Testament. 15 years ago, time flies, I wrote one of my first academic articles about this papyrus. At the time, I thought I'd been pretty thorough. Is there anything more to say? In 2014, Roberta Mazza invited me to a conference she had organized at the University of Manchester, From Egypt to Manchester, unraveling John Ryland's papyrus collection. During my visit, I took opportunity to comb through their archives a bit with the helpful guidance of both Roberta and Elizabeth Gow. I was able to learn some interesting things about the purchase of the papyri, etc. So he's going to go into that history. But he's looking at other papyri, so it's not specifically just about P52. Okay, but here's some related things. And this looks like it is the study that he did. So just while that's loading up, I'll go through these. E.C. Cowell on P52. So that would be interesting to go through what he claims about that. I might just go through it because I'm like, okay, I'll read that later, but I never will. Let's just be honest about that. Okay, so back in 2005, I wrote an article. So this is Brent Nombury. The small papyrus fragment of chapter 18 of the Gospel, according to John, kept at Rylands Library in Manchester. I argued that the date generally assigned to the fragment on the basis of its handwriting, first half of the 2nd century or circa 125 CE. I was overly narrow, and that reasonably good paleographic comparanda could be found among documents securely dated to the latter 2nd century and into the 3rd century. As a result of this, I argued that the Rylands should not be a factor in historical arguments about the date of the composition of John's Gospel. Okay, so he's talking about a whole bunch of other issues here, pretty much about the date of it. And see, that's the thing too. At the end of the day, what would I do if I had, someone said, look, I want you to figure out everything about this document. Here's $100,000. I go, okay, let's hire a team to go to check out this manuscript to test the inks. Obviously you can't damage it, so we just want to do everything we can do to test it, to try and make sure that we can get some sort of scientific analysis on the date and comparing it with other documents of the time, etc. And so doing that would then, because sometimes these manuscripts can be fakes. The Museum of the Bible, they tested all their Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found to be forgeries. And so this can happen. So that's the first thing I would do. Then I guess, going on to what we're saying here, I would have someone, and it's probably already been done with such a popular bit of papyri, but getting all the letters photographed separately and all put into a type of alphabet, then having critical text, and people would want, Byzantine text separate from TR, where I'd probably have them the same, but having critical text, Byzantine text, Textus Receptus, all of those texts all put out in a row. And so that way you could see which one would match up with those type of photographs of those letters. You might have a Nomina Sacra there with Jesus, and so that might affect a reading or whatever. So, but also just going through all the old material on this, because I guess you've got something that's sitting in a museum. Perhaps this has been moved around. Perhaps older photos of this manuscript show, because sometimes people handling these things, back, 100 years ago, or it's like 1920, I think it was discovered. Perhaps in like the 1930s, someone moved it and a tiny bit fell off, and people haven't noticed that the old photos actually have more to read or something like that. So I've actually clicked on something that I thought was a photo, but yeah, so sometimes, that type of thing can happen. Okay, paleography, precision and publicity, P52. It looks like private access to Cambridge University Press. Or you can pay $47. So anyway, that's what's been done there. New York Public Library and P52. So yeah, another interesting thing. Joe Rogan, he has P52. So this is a copy that Wes Huff has made of P52. So let's just check that picture out. Whoops, we're going back to there. Okay, so that's the YouTube photo of that. Discovered by C.H. Roberts in the 1940s, false. Okay, so someone's gone through and just pointed out the the issues that Wes Huff has brought up. And the thing is too, like, to me, Wes Huff is just like a young guy. He's trying to be in apologetics. He's saying, I know a lot about the text. Now, the thing is, it's like if you say you know a lot about computers, it doesn't mean you can make a website. It doesn't mean you can set up someone's internet. You can know lots about coding and know little about everything else. And so some people are Microsoft trained, they're not PHP trained. And so there's a whole different school of thought. And so, yeah, he's mentioned all these things. It's false. Codex is almost exclusively a Christian convention. False. Comes from Oxyrhynchus, misleading. There's still debate about the dating of this. That's true. Unanimous consensus. It's the 2nd century, very much debatable. He's just brought up all these things. So I'm not even sure who did this. This is, Brent Nombury. So, very interesting. But we want to try and, I guess the thing is, like, when it comes to the whole Palin issue, I guess we have to find someone who's done the type of work that I showed you earlier, which is, let's see, or even Wikipedia sort of do it with having all this there. Now, if Palin isn't there and it's in here, that would expand a little bit. But then you think, well, it could be too long. But if Jesus is in nomina sacra form, it definitely wouldn't be too long. But would this be too short? So that's where you would have to line things up. It wouldn't be that hard to do. And I'm guessing people have already thought down this way. I'll just check some of these comments. Isn't P52 the papyri that Huff made copy for Rogan? Yes, exactly. The Gospel of Mark, but the Pericope Adulterae weren't said by our Lord. They were added by scribes with a wild imagination. Dwayne says, I'd like to get Comfort's papyrus transcriptions, but they're like $300. Okay. Dwayne says, people code in PHP anymore? Well, I guess the cPanel stuff, unless you're using Microsoft Server, you would do it in PHP. But yeah, I mean, you're a coder. It's been a while since I've done any type of coding. That's assuming there's no other textual variants in the lacuna space. Yeah, I guess that would be the first thing that I would do is go, okay, let's examine this text in that way. So I might even do that. And as Dwayne's saying, some of these letters, like you look at the alpha here, then you look at the alpha there. I mean, they might be the same size. Or the new. Look, we can look at the new here. They're sort of similar. So I guess you just basically create an alphabet. You discuss the differences between those, and then you recreate the critical text, recreate the Byzantine text, recreate the Textus Receptus, and put it all there in a row. And I mean, I could probably do that on Adobe Illustrator. It would take a long time. It would be annoying to do. And especially if you just came up with nothing, you'd be like, man, seriously, why am I wasting my life? But we might be able to come up with something. But I guess this video has mostly been to just look at the initial claims. And I will go back to that video and just have a quick look. It only sort of goes for about 30 seconds about P52. Dwayne says, I think the fact that the article is there is probably a good indication to what follows is Pilatos and not Palin. Combine that with the other places Palin is found in the manuscript tradition, and that the article doesn't at all occur in front of Palin in any other manuscript. Yeah, and you wouldn't. I mean, I can see why he's saying he thinks it's a typo, but the other side of the coin is: do we just think that there's going to be a typo, or did the guy actually know Greek and he wrote it down and he wrote what? But it could have been dictated. It could have been. It could be some other word. Maybe there's another word beginning with the P there. So you got Palin. You've got or the Rho iota omicron nu, and then a hot there. Interesting, because I'm just thinking if there's like a type of parablepsis that's happened. But I can't see that. So, Paulos. All right, so I think I have exhausted what we can really look at for the moment. The next thing to do would be that, or maybe I can just quickly show this. So this is the actual document that he has. So he's pointing out these issues that we saw earlier with the epsilon. So he has done the research that I've done today in 3 hours and 15 minutes. He's probably done this, a few years ago. He's come up with his conclusions, and then he is saying what I've read out earlier, that the he's looking at Hopalin or Hopalotos. So that's the issue that we've got to look at. And he's recognized that that's the issue as well. So very interesting. I haven't checked the backside of this. That would be a whole nother, hour and 15, hour and 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes. But I think I'll just stick with this side. And I guess you sort of have to do the whole thing. So, I mean, how many letters are there? I think I could probably go through in Adobe Illustrator and take little snapshots of each letter. And sometimes too, I'll show you a little trick, guys. This will make your mind melt. Now, I'm wondering if I can go full screen here. Full screen. Or if I can get rid of that. I can't take a photo of it. But we're zooming right in. So I'll just look at this particular part, because that's the one we're interested in. So it actually probably won't help, because I'm zoom. If I had a full page thing, I might be able to do it. But what I'll do is I'll just go print screen. Full screen. Now I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator. Dwayne's waiting for. I've only just said your mind will melt just to keep you hanging on, so that I've got a video which people watched right to the end. Or what I'll do in the meantime, while Adobe is jumping up, I will replay this clip here.
There is no evidence of the traditional text before the 4th century. That's the Lucian recension theory. But you see these papyrus things here, they number papyri, these little pieces of paper. Papyrus 52, 100 to 175 AD, has one spelling difference and one place that I consider to be a scribal error. Because it was an omicron, a Greek omicron, that was misplaced and put in front of a word instead of it behind it. Besides that, it is a perfect match to the Textus Receptus. Papyrus 32.
Okay, so maybe he wasn't actually making out that, okay, the papyri is, maybe in the complete video, which I've yet to watch, he's saying, okay, well, they're saying that it's so much closer to the Westcott and Hort text, but actually ours is it's one letter and it's a TR text. And so, which would be a valid point to make. And so maybe I'm sort of thinking that he's being very narrow with this thing, but I've got to watch everything. So I'm just going to go to my screenshot here on Adobe. So I've just cropped it. So apply. I'll put it up here. So this is my Adobe Illustrator. Now it's just a screenshot, so it's not the clearest, it's not the best, but it's still pretty good. Now you can go to effects, and I would recommend anyone looking at manuscripts to try and figure these things out. Go to Adobe Illustrator, Artistic, and go to Neon Glow. And you can look at things like this, so which helps a lot, because sometimes you like that, even there I can tell pretty much that that's ink, even though I'm not seeing it, just because of the way everything else is glowing on the page. So this is very helpful. So here we have our Omicron there. Now that would be very useful to see what we were looking at earlier with I think, did I shut it down? No. P52 portal here. So let's go to our little letter, our sigma here, and we'll just check that out. I'll just take a screenshot of that. Oops, screenshot. And full screen. Now I'll go to here, paste the full screen in. Oops, cancel that. Let's go paste. And you can see everything I'm looking at, but we don't care about all that. We're looking at crop image. Let's go to there, to there. We'll just apply that first. Zoom in a bit, crop it again. And you can just download the image, but I don't think that website allows me to actually do that. So this is just a crude way for me to show you how you can examine some of these manuscripts. Okay, so we'll zoom into that. Now we'll go effects, effects gallery, and we were looking at Neon Glow now. So you can see where the ink is. It's quite amazing, isn't it? So it's just coming up as this glow. So you can clearly see here this sigma that we saw with this blobbiness here. Obviously that's an epsilon. And it's quite interesting. You can see the grain and where it's faded. That's one of the the signs that something is a forgery is when you see the grain, but you see the ink has fallen down into the grain when it's being penned. So that means that the manuscript was old when they wrote on it, rather than it was a fresh manuscript and they wrote on it, and the ink is sitting on top. So, but yeah, a very interesting thing to look at and to consider. And sometimes just going through the different artistic effects can help in just determining what something says. I've gone through this with some of the Byzantine manuscripts, looking for specific TR readings, and that was one of the things when in Ephesians 3:9, going through that and going through I think it was P66 or something like that. We were like, no, it's not saying what James White says it is saying. So very interesting to look at it this way. But definitely the neon glow one is gold. And so just go back to it and it's like that. Bright edges. Wow. Like that just opens it right up. Quite amazing. Now let's apply that, okay? And then you're dealing with this type of thing. So, yeah, very interesting tool that a lot of people have access to, Adobe Illustrator. New chapter is about to go to sleep. I'm about to shut this down, I think. Yeah, Dwayne Green says that's cool. And yeah, I've used that for a long time. And sometimes too, there used to be old photographs of like the Complutensian polyglot in black and white, and now you can get them in full color resolution, all the rest of it. But I sort of had to do this type of thing just to see where, there'll be just blurs on a page, and just to see where the text was, and just to be able to read it in a different light. Another thing I can do too, if I go, I'll just undo the neon glow. If you go to, is it file? No, edit. Here we go. Color settings. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Edit colors and convert to grayscale. Sometimes just getting rid of the color can help. You can just see where there's dark. You can see where there's light. Sometimes the color does help. So let's undo that. But you can see what I mean. Like sometimes having it black and white can be more helpful. Adding the neon glow, apply the neon glow, that can help. And look, you can see where they're more dark. That's interesting. Because you know how we were saying, oh, there's a blotch there. You can see there's a blotch here. There's a blotch there. There's a certain blotch in the letters, which is, it's twice as dark, I guess. So you can see that here, which it seems like he's begun here and he's finished there and it's just gone blue. Or maybe he's gone there, and because he's trying to carry on to that one, he started there again, and it's actually gone blob to there, and then he's gone through and done this. But it does look like he's dipped in his ink here, and here, a little bit heavy, and which is an interesting thing to look at and think about. Dwayne says, I've been trying to apply some astrophotography techniques, but I need a large quantity of raw image files. I wonder if Dan Wallace would let me try. He probably would. If you got Dan Wallace on your program, it's hard to get him on, I know, because he's but he did a show with this chick the other day that I was looking at, and she didn't seem like she knew that much about stuff, and she was just chatting with him. But I'm sure if you just wrote to him, or if you wrote to, someone who was like a Elijah Hixson or Peter Gurry, or that they could probably give you a yay or nay. It'd be great for pulling out dim details like a palimpsest or something. I guess the thing is, like CSNTM are like we're taking photos of these manuscripts so that you can do exactly what you're talking about. So for them to then go, hey, here's someone who's doing research on this, let's allow him access so he can put things up. I guess if you're just giving credit to them and their institution, then it's beneficial for them, because people will gravitate toward their website and all the rest of it. So I would say, look, hey, if you give me access to some of these raw photos, I'll anytime I'm showing some of these photos, I'll reference you guys. They'll probably be into that. Okay. Dwayne Green says, sometimes I'll use color curves to bring more contrast. Okay. The blotchiness is interesting. Yes. Okay, guys. Yeah, I think I will shut it down very soon. I think, that this was just of interest. And so, but definitely I'll just go back to what we had up before, which was this one here. That is the little culprit there. If that wasn't there, we would go, it matches the TR, but it is there, and we have to go and admit it matches the Westcott and Hort. So that's where we're like, okay. So, but then there's the whole other side of the coin. Every time someone says something matches Westcott and Hort, I'm like, is it a fake? Just straight away, my default is it a forgery? And so I guess I've got to do that, even if this did back up the TR 100%. Because what I might do is go through Papyrus 1 and show you the difference between what is claimed to be a Vaticanus type of manuscript, where I've pointed out, and Hoskia pointed out, that it is basically a Textus Receptus manuscript with a few tiny little variants. So, so let's do the effect on this. Apply neon glow to this. Let's see what happens. Wow. Very interesting. Let's check this effect out. What else can we do here? Oh, wow. Huh. Oh, that's amazing. Look at that. There's me. There's Dwayne Green. And hopefully your mind melted. So anyway, that is very trippy. I didn't even know how I'm doing that. It's doing a live thing. Anyway, my mind has just melted. So I'll let you guys go. Thanks for joining us, guys. Hopefully you had fun with that one. But if I was to give a thumbs up, or, at the end of the gladiator thing, thumbs up or thumbs down to this, I would give a medium with a mostly thumbs down to that claim. If the definite article was just a random variant, I would go, yeah, well, it's TR except for this random variant, but it's TR except for this place which matches Westcott and Hort more. So to say it's TR over the Westcott and Hort is not accurate, but then I've got to watch his full video, get educated in that, and check all that out. So thanks for joining us, guys. God bless you, and we will see you next time.